Welcome to your Monday edition of Up to Speed Live. Hope all of you had a restful weekend. We are thrilled, of course, to start the week with our HR leader, Christy Pambianchi. Christy joins us live to talk about a personal perspective on International Day of the Girl, an update on our racial justice action plan, reminders about the upcoming election, and so much more. But first, we are, of course, thinking about everyone impacted by Hurricane Delta this weekend. We continue to work around the clock on network restoration efforts. Significant progress is being made along the Gulf Coast. And once again, we are thinking of everyone in the Gulf Coast region and, of course, our hardworking network team who are making sure that our communication tools are ready to go for not only the residents there, but for our first responders as well. So let's get back to the main topic here. We have a couple of topics we want to talk about, and it's ripe for interaction. So please feel free to jump on Twitter and Periscope and let us know how you're doing and what you're thinking about as we continue this conversation with Christy. So if you have not taken a look at Christy's post about Sunday's International Day of the Girl, you will find it on Christy's LinkedIn. So let's take our first slide right now. The post is titled, "Dear Sarah, Love Mom." It is a poignant, beautiful open letter from Christy to her daughter, Sarah. Let's share the video now highlighting a big part of International Day of the Girl, some incredible posts from our female leaders using the hashtag #WhatINowKnow. This is wisdom for our next generation of female leaders and ways we can all be part of the movement. Some fantastic posts on LinkedIn. Just follow the hashtag #WhatINowKnow. Going back to Christy's letter to Sarah, I wanted to take a moment to share an excerpt from that letter. So let's take the next slide now. Christy writes, "Every woman leading from the front was once a young girl. Unsure of what their future would bring, they were in the same place as you are right now, wondering if their next step is the right one. However, one thing I have learned over my career is that there is no right step. Life is anything but linear, and there are many steps we take that shape our journey. And in so many ways, of course, our Up to Speed guest today continues to shape our V-Team journey." Christy, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll start with that beautiful letter to Sarah. What was the driving force behind those words to your daughter?
Andy, thanks so much. And it's great to be here on Up to Speed with you. And thanks to all the V-Teamers that are tuning in around the world or watching on replay. International Day of the Girl is just such an opportunity to acknowledge that there's more to be done and that we really aren't done ensuring that there is equality and an equitable future for our girls. And so as I was heading into the weekend and thinking about that, I had to reflect on the past year and my own daughter and how many challenges were in front of her and how I just watched her rise to the occasion. She actually relocated with me to join the Verizon family as a junior in high school. And just as she was beginning to settle in and make friends, right, the pandemic happened and schooling was put to home. All activities were canceled. And she had to really pivot and readjust. And now she's in the senior year of high school with the pandemic, all of the racial justice crises. And really, as just having turned 17 and thinking about her future, I've watched her continue to confront these challenges and really work them through in a way that was really inspiring to me. So I wanted to write out of her and that there was so much ahead of her that would come in life. And also that for women at the stage of life I'm at, we're learning a lot from the girls and the younger women in the world. And they're teaching us too, as hopefully they'll learn from some of the lessons we've had. And so for me, I wanted to just send that letter to my daughter as if it was my former self, think about some things that might inspire her on the next leg of her journey, spark other women to contribute to the dialogue. And Andy, one of the things I fundamentally believe is that all women helping each other is such a huge contributor to the progress that we're making and helping bring up the next generation of girls into young women and adult women and having their thoughts and ideation help guide us is something really inspiring. And this weekend, actually, I participated in the TED Countdown 10-10-2020, and there were so many young women speakers, and I was so inspired. And so I just want to thank anyone that took the time to add a post and add an inspiration because you filled me back up with all those thoughts.
Christy, thank you for those poignant words. And, watching our interaction here on Twitter, lots of hearts popping, a lot of people talking about International Day of the Girl 2020. And of course, in that letter there, if you take a look at the letter, there's a section in your letter addressing the need to dig deeper when it comes to systemic injustices. It was June 1st. I can't believe how long it's been when Hans delivered that heartfelt message following the death of George Floyd. We've had so many thoughtful conversations about this. Within days of that remark from Hans, you assembled a task force, built an action plan to map out how we as a company will contribute to a more equitable future, both within our walls and beyond, taking actions beyond those words there. Christy, we are 4 months now into that plan. How are we doing, and where are we going with that plan?
Andy, thanks so much for that. One of the big things we heard from our V team right at the outset of those communication from Hans and when we laid out the action plan was excitement and thankfulness that we were doing that, and also a plea to please stay with it, stick with it, keep telling us how we're doing, and really stay the course. And so we've been working with the Up to Speed team here to make sure we're back in front of our employees and our V team giving us progress updates. So I'm delighted to be here 4 months later, and you'll keep seeing me and other members of the leadership team talk about our progress, because we are very serious and very committed. And so we put a plan together that had 3 pillars. One was continuing the conversation, another was building a strong organization, and the third was engage to highlight the progress that we've made on each of these areas, Andy, because we have assembled an amazing group of teams from across the company, really earmarked and working against this. VLC members meet and do a review every few weeks on the progress we're making. But let me just touch on a few, knowing I can't do justice to everything we've done in 4 months, but on continuing the conversation since June 1st, we've dedicated multiple Up to Speed episodes to discuss how we as V-teamers can go from being sideline supporters to really active allies for racial justice. We introduced something called the hashtag Next 20 series to address most pressing issues that are going to drive the next 20 years as we celebrated Verizon's 20-year birthday. And we have really been able to use this series to highlight and educate our viewers on topics around racial justice. And I just have to pause when I make this next statement on our progress, because it's really breathtaking. We have had some of the leading experts in the world, historians, contributors, Gen Zers in the space of racial justice and the history of race relations. We have over 4 million views. 4 million views of these programs. And so I am so touched by how many of our V-teamers are participating, as well as the society at large is getting enjoyment and participation and learning out of these amazing speaking series. In addition, our ERGs, our employee resource groups, these are volunteer employees from across the company. A third of our employees are now members of our ERGs. They have hosted over 100 courageous conversations where we're bringing people together from every background in the company that wants to be part of a conversation. And we're making it a safe space, and we're having breakthrough conversations around all of the issues confronting society today about racial injustice. And we're going to continue to do more of those. We also had the BOLD sponsored virtual March on Washington, which is our biggest volunteer event to date. We also have sponsored and participated in the IEEE conference, which is a conference that focused on Black digital divide for minority groups, which is a really key issue for society right now. And so this is the largest technical standards organization in the world, and it was really an honor to sponsor this and participate in it. Finally, we have something called a Race and Social Justice Toolkit, and that's available for employees. It's a one-stop shop where if you want to get educated or make more insight on this area, we've put something together where you can touch in and do that. So that's just in the area of continuing the conversation. And really, Andy, that's a part of that employee plea really with us up front, which is keep it going, keep this an active part of conversation, and help us find a way forward together. On the building a strong organization, one of the things we really want to do is we want to build inside Verizon that organization that we hope can be out there for every employee in the world to participate in. And so we're taking a number of steps to do that. One of the first ones is really being completely transparent. And so we were delighted in September to publish our diversity representation report. It's out there on both our diversity webpage as well as with our ESG report. And I have to tell you, I am so proud of everybody that helped bring that to light and all the conversations it's sparking, because it's from a basis of fact that we will be able to make progress together. And I know there's so many great ideas that our V-teamers have. And now, armed with all of this information, we're going to continue to collaborate together and do that and have breakthrough for all of our employees, Andy. One of the things that's so important, and I get questions about this, we care about every V-teamer, every 135,000 team member V-teamer. We want you to thrive personally, professionally, and at Verizon. And so hopefully all of these are there for all of you. Another thing we're doing is we're driving deep into recruitment, and we are partnering with 11 historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs. Our BOLD ERG is helping us with campus relations and strong reach out. Many of you have asked, how can I participate? How can I help? And believe me, we're tapping into all of that. We also are building bridges to programs with high school students, such as Inroads, where we have longstanding ties and partnerships, and also through our social platform where we built the Verizon Innovative Learning Schools. We're taking that middle school formula and looking at some ways to bring that into high schools, because we know that high school channel is a really huge channel to help students make that bridge into STEM careers. We also have unconscious bias training, and we now have 98% of our leaders have completed that training. We've got new material on conscious inclusion, anti-racism leader program, and we also have an allyship program that we piloted, and we'll be bringing that to scale for employees that want to learn more about how to go from ally to advocate to action, and we're very excited about that. And finally, one of the things we got a rallying cry for from all of our employees is more formal ways to find mentors and engage in a mentor-mentee relationship. So we're doing a pilot right now in Q4 into Q1. We're partnering with our BOLD ERG to do the pilot. We'll take those learnings and we'll eventually scale that to the whole company in 2021. So you can see there's a lot going on in the company. And then finally, on our third pillar is community engagement. And we know from our Citizen Verizon commitments, as well as from all of the points you hear from our chairman, we focus on all of our stakeholders, our customer, our investor, our employees, and society. And so we thought long and hard as well on our racial justice action plan, what would be our societal facing elements here? And so on this platform, right away, you know that we made donations of $10 million to 7 of the leading organizations on social and racial justice. We have since that time had meetings with Hans and the leader of each of those 7 organizations. We've built out action plans for the donations that we've made to those organizations, tying to commitments that match priorities for their organizations and Verizon. And teams are following up and continuing to meet. The areas that the monies that we donated and the activities are going toward are focusing on criminal justice reform, including fair police practices, civic engagement, including voting, as well as economic empowerment and community building, including job training, community conversations, and other focused efforts on social justice conversations at the community level. I also want to note Verizon Media donated and provided $5 million of donated media to organizations supporting minority-owned businesses such as the National Minority Supplier Development Council and the U.S. Black Chambers. We also launched a partnership with the Clinton Foundation, really to focus on cultivating the next generation of innovators, and that's specifically focusing on students from HBCUs as well as HSIs, Hispanic Serving Institutions, and TCUs, tribal colleges and universities, as well as those with community degrees. And so you can see we're very proud of what we've accomplished. We also know there's so much more to do, but we're trying across keeping our conversations going, building the organization we want to see and be in the world, as well as sharing our knowledge and our resources with society to make a difference.
Christy, it's unbelievable when I think about just the breadth and the scope in which our teams have mobilized and have been able to put actions into those those words that Hans had on June 1st. So it's incredible, and congratulations, of course, to all of our V-teamers involved in those three extremely important pillars there. And Christy, so much of what you've just shared is what continues to bring us together. It has galvanized so many of us to take action, and of course, we are just weeks away from one of the most important actions we can all take here in the U.S. So as we turn to Election Day, we have a video here to get us all thinking about why it's important to cast that ballot. Here's the video. So this really is one of the great things about our company. And of course, Christy, it was right here on Up to Speed. You announced some big news about Election Day. Talk to us about the feedback you've received from our V team after that announcement.
Andy, thanks for that question and this topic. It's something that I'm deeply passionate about. I think one of the things we heard back from our V-teamers was just a deep appreciation. People wrote back to us that they were really stressed out. They wanted to figure out and know how could they safely participate in the election. And really for us, there was multiple things going on here. Just now, today, over this past week, we've had, one of the largest reported, consistently daily sets of COVID cases. We know Europe is having a surge. And so this is just a high concern of the citizens here looking at the vote, like how can I vote safely? The pandemic is still going on, it's raging, how do I stay safe? As we looked at that against the backdrop of wanting to make sure we were allowing our V-teamers to participate in the democratic process, we concluded the only way that we could really go forward was to just give, in the United States here, our V-teamers 4 hours off of paid time to participate in the voting process or volunteer activities that we will host and curate on our volunteer platform related to Election Day. And I mentioned that we needed time for our supervisors to work that through, that this was really big news, and we wanted to really find a way to make sure that we could do that. So supervisors have been working with their teams on scheduling and planning so that on Election Day, people will have 4 hours off with paid time to be able to participate in voting. And if for whatever reason that's not necessary for them, there'll be other ways that they can use that time to contribute as a volunteer and the like. We're pretty excited about being able to do that. And we recognize these are incredibly unusual times. And so it called for an unusual action on our part as leaders. And I think as the video points out, and one of the things, having traveled extensively in the world and done business globally for 30 years, one of the absolute amazing things that we have in the United States is elections and a democracy, and the citizens of the country get to vote and choose and have their voices heard. And one of the main reasons people cite for not being able to vote is not being able to get time off from their job. And Election Day is on a Tuesday. So we felt that it was really an important step forward. We had normal provisions, but we're not in normal times. And the normal provisions we had to allow people to vote on Election Day, when we looked at them, we said this may not work with coronavirus in the background and the challenges states are having to figure out how to conduct the elections. So hopefully if you heard the news before, you've had a chance to follow up in your work team, and you've already built your plan for how to vote. And I think I just can't underscore enough for our employees, make a plan now. Don't make a plan on the morning of November 3rd. Find out what's going on in your voting district. Are you going to vote by mail? Are you going to try to vote in person? Where are those in-person stations? If you're voting by mail, what are all the ways to do that? And we have a lot of resources on our webpage about how to get the information you need to do that.
Christy, thank you, and thank you so much for helping us, voice our vote. and really sort of eliminating the need for thinking about all the things that maybe keeps us from voicing our who we're voting for. I wanted to talk about the Self ID campaign. Christy, you've got some details on that, right? And of course, that's part of making our voices heard.
Thank you, Andy. Yes, later this week, we're going to have, for the United States-based employees, you're going to get more information on our Self-ID campaign. And this will help us further understand our workforce and our workforce representation. I have to underscore this is, while Verizon is mandated at the federal level to collect this information, it does provide employers an opportunity to pinpoint areas that need improvement. And we look to reinforce how we support and champion a more diverse workplace. Some of the information you will be asked to disclose is whether you are living with a disability, whether you've served in the military, information about your racial affiliation, etc. And so all of this information is voluntary. I want to underscore that. You'll be asked to provide it if you choose to do that. It's voluntary. It's really going to be used in aggregate by us at the macro level to understand how can we better serve our V team and how can we make sure we've got the most inclusive workplace so all of our employees can thrive, as well as making sure we're accessing all the best talent that's out there in the world to join the V team. So if you could participate, we would greatly appreciate it, and it will help us build a fuller picture of what we have here in the V team. And so if you see that flag for the Self-ID campaign, we hope you'll choose to participate.
All right, Christy, thank you. And of course, that Self-ID campaign coincides with National Disability Employment Awareness Month. You may have seen that article there we flashed on VisiWeb. Later this week, we've got an exciting virtual event taking place with accessibility top of mind, of course. So V-Teamers, you can find more information on our virtual accessibility summit. That's taking place October 14th and 15th. The article on VisiWeb does include links to both Wednesdays and Thursdays sessions. Should be some great sessions there in the world of accessibility. We've been also talking a lot about benefits, of course, these days with annual enrollment just around the corner for many of our V-Teamers. A Verizon benefit you can use right now, of course, is access to flu shots. So let's go ahead and take that next slide. Experts tell us getting a flu shot could be more important this year than ever, whether it's through our primary care providers, participating in pharmacies, or even getting your shots at various Verizon locations. Yes, we do that. It is good to know that Verizon benefits are keeping us safe and healthy. So V-Teamers, don't forget to check out VisiWeb for information on those flu shots, one of the many Verizon benefits we, of course, are thankful for. And we, of course, are so thankful to our HR team for making sure that those benefits are possible, for making sure that we have the kind of conversations that allows us to cast our ballots, allows us to make real changes in racial justice, and, of course, some great conversation we're having from this past weekend into this week about International Day of the Girl. Christy, we'll send it back to you for some final thoughts.
Andy, thanks so much. There's just so much going on. And I think it's just really an exciting time to be a Verizon employee. And I hope all of you feel that out there on the V team. I know we've got a lot of excitement in store for the balance of October. And as we really look to bring home the fourth quarter strong. And we are in the final week of our Pulse Plus action planning. So hopefully all of you have had an opportunity with your team leader and your supervisor to sit and talk through the results on your team so that they can populate the action plan for your group. And remember, really here what we're looking for is one action item that you and your team want to focus on. And really, again, going for 100% participation, because we know if we improve at the micro level, it will all add up. And we are so excited to be at that top quartile of engagement. We're so excited about the Pulse Plus results. We'll be back here in October to do a quick hit normal pulse where we'll ask you 5 to 7 questions. And so that's coming up soon and you'll hear more about that. And so I would just say, hashtag forward together. That's the way we're going to keep moving the world forward, and a really exciting time to be on the V team.
Absolutely, Christy. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Up to Speed. One last thing before we go. Christy mentioned finishing strong in that fourth quarter. We, of course, have to look at how we did in the third quarter. So, V-Team, our 3Q results webcast is just around the corner on Wednesday, October 21st. You know we always make sure your questions are front and center. So, send those questions our way. The email, of course, is live at Verizon.com. Our thanks, of course, to Christy, to our tech team here on Up to Speed, and our thoughts, of course, with our team in the Gulf Coast. We are looking forward to a fantastic week ahead. Thank you so much for starting that week with us here on Up to Speed. Until next time, you're up to speed.